and saxophonist Sam Sadigursky's newest album, Words Project 3 Miniatures, is at once an affirmation of his previous recordings and a departure from them. Like the Words Project 1 and 2 albums, the new album features Sadigursky's eclectic and moving jazz compositions set to a wild variety of texts, in this case ranging from William Carlos Williams' poems to Soviet propaganda newspaper articles. On the other hand, while the Words Project's 1 and 2 albums were produced in the traditional jazz style, with the ensemble of instrumentalists being recorded all together at once, the Words Project 3 album takes a more deliberate approach, with often unconventional instruments being recorded one by one over a longer period of time. Words Project 3 will be released by New Amsterdam Records on Friday, January 29th, in a special release show as part of New Amsterdam Records' Archipelago Chamber Music series at the Galapagos Art Space in Dumbo. I sat down with Sadigursky to talk about his experience making the album.
So yeah, I met Michael Leonhardt, who recorded and produced this record. A few years ago, we were both doing this gig in Florida, and I had known his work actually a little bit, and kind of when I met him, I just immediately had the feeling that he was somebody I wanted to know, because he just does so many different things and is such a versatile musician. And a few years, so we kept in touch, and I sort of going through my material at one point and had a bunch of songs, I think about 3 or 4, for male voice that I really hadn't found the right singer for. And I wanted to hear him sing this stuff, and we sort of got together casually for him to read through this stuff. And he it was at his music studio, and kind of the way he is, he loves to record everything. So he hit the record button, and immediately we were just sort of off and racing. And he I think we started with song Forbidden Fruit, and he set up this drum loop for it, and it actually ended up being the drum loop that we used on the final record. And we were just sort of going, and realized that we worked really well together, and he seemed to be very interested in my stuff, and we a year later we had a record.
Sadigursky then talked about the production of the album.
Particularly this record feels like much more of a departure from the world of jazz than any of the others. I mean, the first 2 records were done, were essentially recorded in a studio, but live, all the musicians playing together, and basically done in 2 days. And this record took 11 months, and most of the parts were actually kind of recorded individually. And so it's much more produced, and you do really get a sense of an artist working with a palette or something, and just you set up a foundation, and the whole world is kind of open at that point, and it gives a lot of room to just experiment with different sounds and textures, and some things really ended up going in totally different directions than I ever would have intended. And we were really able to kind of use some interesting things, and a lot of those things were actually very spontaneous. Actually, Michael's studio, he calls it Candyland, and it really is that. It's this high-ceilinged, kind of small, but it feels like a loft space, and just every single wall is covered with instruments and toys, and it really just, there's this whole world of possibilities open to us. And and it was a really great vehicle for me to just play a lot of things that I probably wouldn't play on record otherwise. And Michael plays a extraordinary number of instruments as well, so we both sort of stretch those capacities quite a bit. song called Wistful, where we actually, there was a medical site that my girlfriend, who is studying to be a doctor, showed me, and it had all these great sort of breathing and heart sounds, and sort of to help students identify murmurs and other defects. And so these sounds were so sort of intriguing and so incredibly thick. And so we end up taking, I think it's a sort of breathing sound in Wistful, and it lies underneath that entire track. I think one of the pieces actually that might intrigue people and befuddle them at the same time a bit is O Muziki Tolstik, which is based on a text written by the Russian writer Maxim Gorky. And basically it was a propaganda piece that he wrote for Pravda, which was the main Soviet propaganda vehicle. And it was sort of criticizing this really base Western music and Western jazz, and how it represented all the things that were wrong with the West. And actually, O Muziki Tolstik translates to kind of like the fat music, and not fat with a PH. So yeah, it's a pretty lewd piece. It's definitely the most lewd one on the record, and you know, and the setting of it is pretty harsh and sort of confining and mechanical and oppressive sounding, and it's one of the stranger pieces on this record, for sure.
Did this piece feature particularly unconventional instrumentation? Is this one of the ones that would be difficult to recreate live? Yeah,
absolutely. There's a tabla that's played by Sonny Jane underneath sort of what's a brass quartet, and also and then bass clarinet. There's sort of a bass line that's played by bass clarinet and baritone saxophone, and there's all sorts. There are a lot of bells on this record, and there are bells on this, and then Christine Correa sings on top of it. And then also Michael, actually, while we were recording, acquired an instrument called the waterphone, which it's hard to describe. It's this sort of bass filled with water, and it has these spikes coming up that are bowed, and you move it around, and you get the sound of the water moving around, and you get a very, very harsh, disturbing sound. It actually can produce some really beautiful sounds too, but it kind of sounds like dolphins and whales, and that becomes pretty prominent as the piece goes on, and just adds to this, you know, feeling of oppression.
1, 2, 3, 10, 20 strokes.
I asked Sadigursky why he keeps writing music set to words.
I don't think there has been a really solid motivation. I mean, I don't see myself as trying to carry on that standard tradition. I mean, a lot of these are a little bit too off the wall and quirky, and don't really follow so much a simple form that a lot of those standards offer, that make them sort of so great to have as sort of a core repertoire or material for the music. But who knows? I think, you know, one of my dreams is that other singers take on this work that I've written, and it would be really great to see how they interpret it.
Sadigursky's newest album, Words Project 3 Miniatures, will be released by New Amsterdam Records on Friday, January 29th. That night, Sadigursky will be performing at the Galapagos Art Space in Dumbo, Brooklyn. To purchase the album or to find out more about Sam Sadigursky, visit www.newamsterdamrecords.com. For New Amsterdam Records, this is Jacob Paul.